I apologize for the continued mask with the type 1 diabetic who just got a pacemaker, so be extra careful. So I call this meeting of the HAC to order. I believe we have one public comment tonight. Public comment?
No, wait. I just.
So if you,
You're first. Well, no, public comment is first.
right, public comment is first, and so if you just join us at the middle, there's a mic there.
I need to go first?
Oh yes, sure.
Sergeant here.
You're our only public comment that I'm aware of.
Video too? Oh my God, I should have brushed my hair.
Video. Oh.
Hey then.
Okay. You look especially nice tonight. So you look especially perky tonight or something.
Are you ready? Sandy?
Running on.
Are you ready?
Okay, so I guess I go first. I thought public comment was last, but I'm happy to go first. So my name is Tina, and I've been here in this community since 2005. And my public comment has to do with water meters. So what I ask is HAC to look into bringing this issue forward to the, I'm blanking on the acronyms, the Community Advisory Group and the Budget Group, the BAG and the CAG, I think it is. So to look into what the process would be and what the cost potentially would be. And the reason for this is as follows. As we know, water is a scarce resource, and it's only going to get worse if we continue these dry winters. And right now we pay individually for gas, we pay individually for electricity, and potentially water might be one of those utilities that individual households will pay in the future. So again, please bring this forward as to what the process would be, what the cost would be. My understanding is that right now we get a lump sum good deal for paying water sort of collectively. However, my prediction is that our CAM fees will go up as the water price will go up if the drought continues, which is projected to continue. And so it would be helpful then if individual households were aware of how much water they use, because just like with electricity, we became aware of what we use when rates went up. Same with water. And it's not, my final comment here is that it's not counterintuitive for collective good, because I think when we become aware of our individual usage, it actually benefits the county and the region. Because when you pay for what you use, you end up using less anyway. So, while it benefits then individual households for paying just for what they use, it actually also serves the collective good, because as a community, we'll use less when we are aware of what we use. So that's my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments tonight? I believe minutes have been sent out. So anyone wishing to comment on minutes or make a motion to approve the minutes that are out there to be approved?
I'll make a motion, although I've done it in writing to Jake. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. And again, I simply look at the timestamp on the agenda, match it up with the video. If it's close, that's good enough.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Wasn't there last time, so.
Okay, so we will by in writing request other members who were there to approve. We should note at this point that for this meeting only, The HAC is a 4-member group and not a 5-member group, because Kevin and Aisha have already completed their move to Santa Paula. It's no longer in the neighborhood and therefore no longer eligible to finish out the remainder of his term. But because his term is only another 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, there is no point in filling that vacancy between now and then. We have newly elected members of the HAC who take office on July 1, and that will certainly suffice. If anybody objects to that summary of how to proceed, please say so.
No worries.
Seeing no objections, let's move forward. The public safety report.
Hello, good evening, Sergeant Rosas. There was 2 topics that were brought up last time, one of which was the neighborhood watch. I've discussed this with our administration and we are interested in this idea. So we'll be reaching out to a neighboring law enforcement agency to get more information. The other thing that was brought up was the ham radios. This topic we're also interested in. There's actually been some dialogue regarding them. I don't have any further information at this point, but just know that this is something that we're definitely looking into. As far as activity to report from the previous meeting, we reported that we were handling an investigation for the theft and vandalism of several signs that belong to Mission Hills. So on 5/26, our officers responded to a residence off of Landing Cove, and further investigation led to the identification of the three suspects who turned out to be juveniles that live in this University Glen residence. As far as, so that pretty much took care of that investigation. On 6/6, our officers investigated a report of a burglary at the phase 2 construction site. We investigated and there was some property that was vandalized. There was also construction equipment which had been tampered with. This is an ongoing criminal investigation. We haven't identified any suspects at this time. On 6/11, police officers contacted a subject parked near Channel Islands at Camarillo. The subject was not a University Glen resident and had no affiliation with campus. Further investigation revealed that the subject was in possession of narcotics and drug paraphernalia. The subject was then cited and left the location without further incident. And correction on the location, it was actually Channel Islands near Camarillo. And that concludes my public safety report.
How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
The 3 juveniles, have they had a previous incident?
I don't know. I don't know.
And they're not suspected in the vandalism of the construction site?
Not at this moment.
In that same incident, was something stolen? I'm not quite sure I understood.
The one in regard to the signs or the burglary?
I guess the burglary, is that the 3 juveniles? It doesn't really matter, I guess.
Right. There was one item which was stolen and there was a couple others that were vandalized.
What was stolen?
It was a key belonging to one of the equipment. Yeah.
Was it recovered?
Not yet. It's outstanding. Further questions?
A question about the person that was, I guess, cited for drugs.
Mhm.
Were they here to sell drugs, or do you have any idea? And what was the citation that you gave them with, and how did you find out they had drugs?
Well, that's all included in the report. Yeah, it's this person was not associated with the University Glen. The amount seized was personal use. The small amount for personal use. And yeah, it included a search.
And it what?
Included a search.
Okay. But now you guys know what that person looks like and what car they drive.
Oh, absolutely. Everything's documented. So anytime we cite someone for that reason, we take contraband. There's a report that's taken. Everything is recorded in our body worn camera. So it's in our system.
Do you believe that person within the neighborhood just for some other reason and just happen to have the drugs, like the regular supply of drugs on them? Or do you believe that they were in the neighborhood to transfer the drugs to someone here?
Well, based on my training and experience, he only had a usable amount for one person. So there was nothing that led us to believe that he was here to transport or sell or anything that.
That's
right. Okay.
One last question. A couple months ago, I believe the chief had mentioned that he was considering experimenting with bike patrol.
Right. Okay. Sure. I'm actually going to be the sergeant in charge of the program. We've already have our 3 bicycles that were purchased for the program. I'm certified from my previous agencies to patrol on bike. However, the officers that were selected for that still need to go through the training.
When will that start?
We haven't identified as. Okay, that's.
Do you have any movement on parking permits for motorcycles?
I'm sorry.
Parking permits for motorcycles?
I'm not sure. I need to look.
So you won't cite a motorcycle if you want without a permit?
Well, I'm a park. I would have to consult with my parking officers.
Right.
You know, it's something that I can get back to.
Okay.
Yeah. So. No problem. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Landscape.
I'd like to introduce Lazaro Ramos. He's with Gothic Landscape Services, who we are finalizing our contract with for landscape services starting July 1st. And so I wanted to introduce you. Some of you already know Lazaro. He was with Brightview, left about, when was it, September, October of last year, and went to Gothic. And so he's very familiar with our irrigation system particularly, and knows somewhat. We'll work with him on what our expectations are. I wanted to introduce the community to him, and so they will give more specifics at the July HHC meeting on the 21st. As far as other people that may be working with him that you'd be more familiar with. Do you have anything you want to say, Lazaro?
No, all I wanted to say is that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to allow us to come and partner with the community. I'm super excited, looking forward to July 1st. And you know, I believe it's very beneficial, all the knowledge that I know in regards to the community, and I feel like I don't have to start from scratch because there's a lot of knowledge that we already know, and so I feel like it's gonna be progress and like kind of the side blinding, and so I think this is a great opportunity to really take it to the next level, and that's kind of my commitment to the community. Because I feel that we made some progress, but I think it's gonna be all about making it to the next level, and I'm confident that we'll be there, we'll get there. And so July meeting, I'll make sure that I bring my account manager, my boss, regional manager, and the people that will be involved on a daily basis. As far as the daily operations go. And so I've been working very closely with Jay since what this started. And so just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity again, and very excited to get started in July 1st.
Can you talk a little bit about Gothic? Because obviously Gothic recruited you away from Brightview. You must have done that for reasons that made sense to you. I know they're different companies. I know one's nationwide, one isn't. And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Gothic is a privately owned company. It was started in Valencia. Was still family owned, run by John and Ron Giorgio, two brothers. And so very the culture behind what they stand for is very. They have a big pride about doing what we promise to do. And I think that was one of the main reasons that I decided to make a change, because I will not speak that, because I worked for Grandview Valley Press for many years. It was very hard for me to leave after 16 years. But I felt that I needed to do that because I was no longer enjoying my job, and it turned into numbers rather than actually focusing on mowing grass and doing the right thing with the plants. Everybody's in the business to make profit, like to run a business. But I think I can say without hesitation, and I've been in Gothic for about 7 months, and I'm confident that I already met the owners like at least 3-4 times in my 7 months, and so it's just a different level of in regards to resources. There's not a lot of layers to go through. When you need a piece of equipment, I need a mower, so it takes like 1 call, versus I need a mower, it takes like 10 calls to get something approved. So that's my experience so far. And so I'm very happy working for them. Everything that I asked for in regards to hiring people that I know that will make my operation strong, they say yes to. So it's very supportive, and I'm very excited to be part of the company. So same resources when it comes to irrigation, knowledge, enhancements. They have a construction division. So just different, just like there are only 3 states there in California, Nevada, Arizona, but they can pretty much do the same thing. They're just not a nationwide company, but they're the largest.
They certainly, Nevada and Arizona certainly give them experience with a climate that we seem to be moving towards rapidly. So, no, I personally am excited to see you back and to see the nature of the company that we've now written a contract with. And although I had nothing to do with it because I didn't serve on that committee, glad to see the result. And I guess I want to welcome you back, and I hope the whole community will welcome you back.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to know, will the services that we provide here under Gothic be better than the services that were provided under Brightview? Because I mean, even when you were here, we weren't satisfied. So what's going to be the difference? And will you be the actual manager, or will Gothic have someone else?
So I am the branch manager. Under me will be Jose Diaz, who will be the dedicated account manager.
Can you turn that down a little bit so I can hear this?
Well, should I actually?
Got it?
I'm sorry.
Will you be the manager?
Yes, Jose Diaz will be the account manager reporting on a regular basis with Jake. And then under Jose will be an operations production specialist, which is kind of more hands-on with execution of the work. And I mean, this is a big job, so I will always be tied to it because I don't want it to go south. And so, just I guess to answer your question, it's I believe that part of the struggles before had to do with the lack of being able to have consistent labor. I honestly think that was a big part of not having that consistent, service. It's like, I truly believe that if you have like dedicated people that are on a consistent basis on the job every day, obviously you're gonna have somebody on vacation, but I'm referring to like have somebody that just throughout the year, no changes, no nothing. Because somebody's not telling you, that you shouldn't have this labor, this much labor, or you should have back on labor. I believe that that's probably the biggest struggle with a job this size. You don't wanna play with those things, because I think this is just a monster job, and if you cut back on that, I think that's when things tend to go south. Because in my opinion, you can have 10 guys, the 5 guys can be very lazy and be doing nothing. Or you could have 5 guys that are super focused and they're like strong at what they do and they understand what needs to be done on a daily basis. But if you have turnover and always have to have a different guy, it's just like a never-ending story. So that consistency is not there. So what I've been talking to Jake a lot about is just like my plan is to have like the same guys full time and then pull from the job so that we can always offer that service, because this is gonna be my biggest job, so I do not want to jeopardize it.
Hang on, we're just finishing up.
But it won't be that you won't be hiring right guys to come over here and do the same job that they did before. That's my concern, because I kind of heard you said Gothic will let me hire the guys I want. So,
Qualified guys.
yeah.
Yeah, I meant like, yeah, I meant that I don't put obstacles. Yeah, I know what I left behind, I know what I don't want on my team. And I do want, I know what I want on my team, I know what I don't want on my team.
We've already talked about that, Carolyn.
Okay.
I have a question.
And just to finish, I understand that I can say a lot of words and my words only mean something, but I know that what it's gonna do is gonna what happens out there. And so I hope that as we go, like we can all say, yeah, this was the right thing to do, and that's, I can say whatever I want to say, but at the end of the day, it's gonna reflect out there.
I certainly hope that we can all.
I have a quick question. Is this contract, is this just for landscaping, or does it include all the separate arms of the contract that Reggie had, such as tree trimming and landscape refurbishment? Or is this all going to be under your one umbrella?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
To be straightforward, it's the tree trimming is a subcontract to them, and we were aware of that, but it's a different company. Gothic does not have tree trimming as part of their
Contract with that.
right,
Okay.
but it's under their contract. Yes,
So
but
I
we're
know
aware of
landscape
that.
refurbishment will be through you,
Yeah.
or when we move forward with the, okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Am I okay to do it?
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you so very much.
Okay. I have the next item. Sorry to go ahead. Is the site authority representative John Lazarus, and I have John. You there?
I am.
Okay. I have him on the speakerphone, and so I'm going to put him near the microphone. So go ahead, John, and make your report.
Okay, so my report really is about common area maintenance fees for the 22-23 fiscal year. And the apartments, town center apartments and town center retail are going up respectively 16%, 15%, 15%. And it's important to remember that the reserves for those areas are managed exclusively by KW and ENS rent. And so those, there's no direct reserves contribution within those CAM fees. And so the per unit fee goes from, for all three of them, $16.43 to $251.89 for apartments, and then 248.58 for town center apartments and retail. And then the part that I think people are more focused on is single family homes and townhomes. And single family homes, the overall CAM fee is rising by 11%. And so it's going from 232.22 to 258.46. But it's worth noting that the reserves contribution for the single family homes is not increasing at all. And it's a little bit more complicated than this, but basically the inflation is causing increased costs for operations, and so that results in the 11% increase, but the reserves, the sort of savings account, is having no change within that. And then townhomes are increasing the lowest percentage of all. It's 5% increase, so it's going from 269.34 to 287.81. Important to know that the reserves contribution for townhomes is actually dropping 18%. And so we know that we have an underfundedness within townhome reserves. And we're going to be taking this year to really look at the strategies for how to bring that fundedness level up to a more sustainable level. And we're looking at everything, but we've been, at a high level, we know we've got a problem to solve in that area.
Well, I don't understand why the single family is increasing by 11% when the reserves are not increasing. What's the difference between a single family and a townhome that it would be almost a double percentage increase?
It's really that the operations, we use operations to fix lights and things that families don't have. And so the cost of that ongoing maintenance, because of there's more things for townhomes that are centrally funded than single family.
I think.
I don't
John,
understand that at all. That
think-
makes no sense.
I think we can probably address this at the end of the meeting when we talk about the material that the UCAM office sent out to every owner today. And I'm going to go over the dollars that are allocated in each area. And I think the answer to Carolyn's question is probably findable in that data. And she can see how you have basically the increase in operational costs that's directly reflected in the single families is covered by the reduction to reserve contributions that you made in the townhome. There basically is the same operational cost increase across all boards, but because you reduce the contribution to townhome reserves, the total increase is smaller for townhomes than it is for single families. But it's merely a basis of how the site authority decided the accounting. And I'll go through those numbers at the end of the meeting when I make my report on the budget.
Yeah, that's correct. And thank you, Sandy. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but they're pretty nicely laid out. And it's there's no hidden expenditures there. It's all detailed out.
John, quick question, just high level, as you look at the townhome reserves next year and trying to find a solution, is the site authority using a percent funded approach, and if so, what target level are they planning to set?
I don't think we've gotten to that level of detail. I think one thing I can share is that we recognize that, the amount of CAM fee that an individual homeowner pays matters. It's coming out of their monthly budget. And so we're really trying to balance between having enough money set aside for future obligations, while at the same time not putting people in untenable positions in the shorter term. And so it's that constant balancing act. What I can't tell you is within the BAG group, there was a couple of options discussed, and this was not the high-funded one. And again, the reasoning behind that is to try to balance that fact that, we're trying to make living climate affordable as possible, while at the same time having the money we're going to need to pay for drought issues.
So I think basically what we're looking at is with the increase in costs to the townhome reserves this year, it would have taken a substantial increase in townhome camp fees in order to continue attempting to fund those additional costs. Inflation has had its impact on what it's going to cost us down the road. So we temporarily, the site authority has taken a pay-as-you-go approach, which is one of the things that Kevin Olson advocated that we do in discussions over the last several years. And that pay-as-you-go approach, we have enough money to meet all our obligations doing what they've done. But the site authority has committed that during this year, starting in July, between July and June, in the next fiscal year, we will come to some conclusion about a way forward that returns the townhome reserves to 65% fundedness, which is the goal that was established 3 years ago when we addressed townhome reserves the last time. We don't know what the future brings and when the next adjustment will have to happen, but based on where we stand right now, we're looking at doing a thorough evaluation of all the alternatives that are possible, including some that are kind of out of the box. My favorite solution is kind of out of the box. And the site authority will select a solution with which they are comfortable. And it will be their decision as we go forward. But for this coming year, townhome camp fees have been left at as reasonable a level as we can leave, that as the site authority can leave them, while maintaining an adequate funding to meet the expenses that the reserves need to meet in the near term. John, are you comfortable with what I just said? You want to contradict anything I just said?
I don't, Sandy. I agree.
So, it's basically cash flow versus percent funded level. And what I guess where I'm disappointed is that we decreased the contribution instead of at least keeping it where it has been. So the hole's going to be a little deeper, but if we go to a cash flow kind of approach, it increases the risk that we may need to have a special assessment if we have reserve expenditures that are not planned for.
And you are absolutely accurate.
So just.
And what that means is that you're kicking the can down the road, and it means that people are living in their property now and expecting people they sell their property to pay for the maintenance and do all of that when they should be contributing to the reserves. So this is very much advantages the current owners, but there's nothing there. But I think everyone on the BAG committee were all townhome owners, right?
But isn't this what the site authority did when they sold the
That's what they did.
They left their problem with us, expecting us to correct it.
And so they're continuing to not resolve the problem.
That is
Kick the can down the road.
I can say that I appreciate people who are willing to look at increasing the monthly camp fee, and that could indeed be part of the solution. But I know that there's other people who are just concerned with sort of maintaining their low cost of ownership.
But it's not a low cost of ownership when you look at the totality of the.
I think the complexity of just the conversation we're having now describes why over the next year we need to spend the time in depth to look at all the options we've looked at historically and maybe some things that we've never looked at in order to find the funding to do what needs to be done in order to adequately fund the townhome reserves at the same level as we fund all the other reserves, which is 65%. And that is a decision the site authority made in the last round of doing this, that was the level of funding they were comfortable with. Has never made my colleague comfortable to be at that level of funding. But that is a decision that the site authority reserves to themselves to make.
But if the site authority made that decision at the recommendation of the bag committee, yes. You guys have been working on it in secret. And now this is the announcement. We have been trying to figure it out, but it's been secret negotiation.
So the operation of the bag committee is confidential. That is a decision that the site authority has made, that those are confidential negotiations and discussions. So people can speak freely. I do not classify it the way you do, Carolyn, as that is necessarily nefarious.
I never said nefarious, I said secret, which is exactly the same as confidential.
You know, I hate to cut my contribution short, but I actually have I skipped out on my daughter's graduation.
Well, and John, thank you for doing this, even though we understand you have a family commitment and we appreciate you being respectful of the group because of your COVID exposure. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you all, and I look forward to digging into this, and we'll come up with a solution.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Bye, everybody.
I have a report since the site authority. Does Kenny Wilson have a representative on the site authority?
No.
In the bag.
No, on the board, the site authority. No, I don't think so, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to know.
No. The only outside people beyond the California State University system and CSU Channel Island staff, the only outside people are elected representatives from town, one representing the towns and cities, and the folks representing the county board. Right. So you have systems level people and you have CSU CI level people, and that is the predominant demographic on the board is actually CSU related folk. And I'm happy to answer, having spent my 100 and some odd hours tracing every audit last year, I am happy to share what I learned about how we got to where we are in that process. I think we've been through this budget year, and I'm now quite willing to share as we go forward so that everybody else can either accept or reject what the data that I pulled together.
Okay. Okay, I want to report various things. The votes for the 3 two-year positions of the HAC were counted this afternoon. There is a video. You can look at the video. We'll post the video should you want to look at every ballot. There were a total of 7.
No, it was not fun. Thank you.
There was a total of 77 votes were cast. The 3 candidates receiving the most votes are Lori McDonald, Toby Wheeler, and Mary Kennedy. The terms of the new members begin on July 1st, 2022. The 5 members of the 22-23 HAC will meet to determine the structure of the HAC, including selecting a chair and participation on the HAC's committees. For the sake of continuity, the continuing HAC members are invited to remain as leaders of their respective committees, the Landscape Committee and the Budget Advisory Group. HAC meeting on the 3rd Thursday of July 21st, will be the first meeting during which the new members will participate as HAC members, although as of July 1st is when the term starts. Okay, congratulations. We would all like to thank Malia King and Tom Bocart for their service on the UGC. We look forward to continuing support and interest and participation in the University of Glen community.
Thank you, to say something. Question, what's the percentage of voting? Is it 77 votes?
Out of 272.
272. So
Less than,
Better than we've had in the past, like 80 something is our high.
we had over 100 last year, so it's a little, it's disappointing.
I think I was elected, I think there were 30 votes. So,
Yeah, this is, we could go back and give you
Yeah.
a range.
It's better than average.
It's
right,
better
I think
than
at one
what-
point there was like 13.
That's about 30% or something like that.
Okay. Update on the playground update. We're working with members of the community to move forward with adding a picnic table and additional seating. And the use of sod versus artificial turf is being investigated to strike a balance between the maintenance considerations and costs. And so that's what we're working on there.
That's within the playground?
Within the playground, it's outside the curbed area where the porta potty
So
is.
I think part of that is
Not where the floor is.
maintaining the safety top.
Yeah, yeah.
To be actually be watering next to that is only deteriorated faster.
Safety issues with the park, now that I've started using it with our granddaughter, there's the mats heat up terribly in the sunshine. So I know that they need to be wearing shoes, but they don't always, and they fall on their hands. And it was hard enough to even mark. The second thing is the placement of the benches that are there now are behind the swings. So a child who's maybe over on a slide sees their parent on a bench and they go running to them right through the flying projectiles that are the swing sets. So these little toddlers are constantly running into the swings. Because they see the parent sitting behind the swing.
So we should put them on the sides.
I think either the swings need to be moved or the benches. Yeah, so it's just something to consider there.
Okay,
Because of
good
the way
point.
the lines work.
Right, so.
Yeah, that's
what's the-
important to know because can look beautiful, but until it's really used.
Right, and also there's a point that's that.
So what you're also saying is that you need to look at the capital cost of a shade.
A shade and maybe put some shade and also remove the benches.
Right, but the only way we'll keep that safety underlayment cool is if there's a shade source inside.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought there was shade.
There's partial shade over the main structure, but over the empty mat area where there is no structure, like when you're running from the center, especially the center area. It's just smoking hot. But I don't want to take away from the success because it is a huge success and parents are really checked out to the, not go during the high hours and things like that. But there are some things to consider as we make tweaks and adjustments.
Sure.
And I also, the picnic table,
Mhm.
we've asked for a picnic table out in the park by the garden and the basketball for many years. And if we're going to get a picnic table for the playground that already has a lot of new stuff, why
Well, we
can't
can
we
talk
talk
about
about
it.
it for the park?
We can talk about it. Sure.
Thank you.
Next item, the police department didn't mention it, but the construction in Anacapa Canyon will be impacting the roundabout number 1 starting today. Today's the 16th through for about a week, and traffic control will be set up and they will continue to give school buses priority during the process. So they're kind of doing at the first round, the northmost roundabout, what they had done at the roundabout at the Hillcrest. I want to thank all those owners in University of Glen who removed the swings from the common area trees. That was very successful. Appreciated that got taken care of. Regarding Brightview, wrapping up Brightview's contract, I continue to meet with Brightview regarding outstanding work orders and irrigation system repairs that are still outstanding, and plant replacements that were associated with phase 1, the plants that died, and all of that. And we're working to address all of that before June 30th. So, yeah, I'm keeping on about that. Just for your information, last week we received information that we were not successful in getting the CAL FIRE grant for the 3/4 inch rock. So we'll have to do some more figuring on that.
I think we need to reevaluate, look at the criticisms we got and consider a broader scope that more closely meets their objectives for another attempt. I don't think we should give up on this source funding if at all possible. So.
And those are usually, it's every 3 or 4 months that you can apply. So we'll continue to look at that.
Jake, excuse me. So that means, well, it's Carolyn. So as the refurbishment project moves forward, which I assume it will after the start of the fiscal year, we have no ground cover strategy other than dirt
at the present time. The next item regarding the brush clearance, which by law needed to be completed on June 1st of 2022. As of the 9th, the two parcels, which are University Glen, both of those were in compliance, and we'll post those reports on the website so that people can see them, and if their insurance companies ask, that they can say, yes, we're in compliance. On Saturday, June 25th, we have Disney's movie Soul is planned on being shown starting at 8:15. So we'll be sending out an e-blast for that, as well as putting it up on the mailboxes, and we'll also give it to Mission Hills so that they can be included in that. Another project, I'm working with a painting contractor on the wrought iron at the playground. And so you may be aware of that when you see, if people are there, that there are men working around there, that's what that's about. And we've talked to them about putting down tarps when they're prepping right now, that when they'll do the painting, that they put tarps down so we can assure that the pouring place is not painted. And we'll also have them put up wet paint signs so that, you know, with all the little hands, that the parents are aware that there's wet paint. And so when you make aware of that, after we get done with those, we're also planning on painting the wrought iron, prepping the wrought iron, all of the metal that's been affected by reclaimed water and irrigation water, getting that all cleaned up and bondoed, and then they will paint that at the 2 pools as well. So hopefully, and that will all be part of this fiscal year.
There's some damage, that water and damage that some of the townhome owners saw. There's some of their apartments. I don't know if they were cleaned as well. Should I let you know that?
Yeah, let me know which ones that are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have several areas throughout the community, townhouses that we're so just let us know if you know specific areas. Okay, then wrapping it up here a little bit, we will be closed on Independence Day, Monday, July 4th. And we invite people, if you know any of my assistant Ivy will be leaving, you know, as of basically the 28th of July. And we have several resumes that look very promising, but if you know somebody that would be interested in a half-time position, usually from 10 to 2, we have a good number of resumes and interested people from the community. So just put it out there. We hope to have somebody, we anticipate we will have an announcement to be made at the July meeting, because we need somebody to help us all set this up, and so that Ivy can orientate them.
So Ivy will be training her to fix that.
Basically, yeah, and understand the technology and all the processes that we have in place.
So does that need to be someone like under 40?
I didn't say that. I'm not going to touch that one.
We're willing to allow that there might be some of us older folk who get it, but
But basically,
it's more
yeah.
likely that you're right.
there are a wide gamut of applicants, of people that have presented resumes. So I just assure you that that's coming together as well. So, okay,
No age discrimination.
not on my part. Nope. I'll take all the help I can get. So, okay, that is pretty much the common area maintenance. On to you and your committees.
Can I
Oh, sure.
pause for a second? So a couple other things. A couple months ago, Jake, you mentioned you were going to do a walkabout of the single family homes looking for disrepair and painting needs and so forth. Have you had a chance to do
We're
that?
continuing to do those assessments. Yes. Yeah. And particularly when a property is getting ready to be sold, particularly with the single families, to make sure that evaluate what needs to be done. So it's taken care of by the previous owner, by the seller, so to speak.
And I don't know if this is the right time, but I submitted some financial questions to you for the month-end reports. I don't know if you're going to be speaking to any of that later on or. No. So just there were several questions, but the primary one was, we continue to run a surplus, about 75,000. Do you expect that? We're 1 month, 2 weeks away from.
There are several projects. This wrought iron painting is one of them. We're also doing an upholstery project for the upholstery at the pools. The cabanas.
Those are reserves, aren't they?
No, that's part of operations.
No, I saw that on the reserve.
I'll have to look at the reserve study. I don't
No,
know.
there's furniture. That's the replacement. This is maintenance.
Okay.
Just to reupholster.
So the point is, you don't know, that's 75,000 surplus. Some of it will likely dissipate by the end of the year.
We anticipate.
And then we have reconciliation that's going to occur in October.
Right.
So
So we don't
is
know.
that umbrella that you're using for the upholstery, sunbrella?
Yeah. It
I've
is.
had sunbrella for 15 years and it still looks great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
What is on it now is not Sunbrella.
Yeah.
So it will
a year
be.
and a half.
Yeah. And it's particularly with the cabanas, it's a light blue.
Right.
And I just kind of,
Now they look pretty good right now.
and so those are a couple of the projects that we're looking at doing. They may not get completed by the end of the fiscal year, but the contract will be signed. And so we will have the funds available from this fiscal year.
But, okay, I'm confused because we didn't go forward with, well, for many reasons, we didn't go forward with the expansion, but I was under the impression the work had to be completed by the end of the month. Not just
The invoice has to be in. And the invoice can be in based on the contract.
Regardless of the work, right, but we're not going forward and I'll discuss that.
One more question.
Okay.
Hopefully there's a simple answer. So I'm getting a little confused. I didn't go to the CAGNY. So this entire community now, are we called University Glen, Anacapa Canyon, both?
We're University Glen. The development is Anacapa Canyon.
Because their market rates are different than us.
Right. So if I tell someone where I live,
It's University Glen.
and if someone lives in the new section, it's
Anacapa Canyon at
And if we're
University
talking in
Glen.
an HAC meeting about both communities, what do we call ourselves
University Glen.
collectively?
University Glen.
Branding is kind of confusing. Okay,
Well, and
it's all right. We know.
And work that you and I have done in terms of looking at public information that we've received that deals with the characterization of the two neighborhoods. My last conversation with site authority staff indicates it's all over the map on that side of the house too. So
Okay,
nothing.
it's not going to solve anything today. I
Not
just,
tonight.
it's just
No.
confused me.
It's
Marketing people, I don't.
It's a
don't
part of
understand.
next year's homework. It's a part of next year's work.
Okay, committees.
Okay. Committee reports. Malia is joining us later. So why don't we defer social committee until she gets here? If she gets here before the end, at least I'm hoping she'll join us later. she's madly doing a work assignment with people who are coming to meetings over the weekend, and they all apparently have to have their plane reservations changed today. Hard. Landscape, Carolyn.
I don't know anything about landscape. Mom knows about it.
Well, all I can say is,
I know my irrigation is still not watering my flowers right in the,
submit a work order.
I did.
And okay, I don't know what to tell you. I passed off a lot of the irrigation issues, projects to Toby, so
Yeah.
most of it's in Toby's hands. There are a couple of financial matters that I think are more finance committee related that are also irrigation related. Some billing issues and some,
Okay, so maybe sometime in the next couple of weeks, we can have a conversation. I know you're leaving tonight, but
yeah, I gotta take off in about 2 minutes.
so.
Anyway,
So
that's
maybe
it.
you and I just plan to have a transition meeting and you fill my head with what I need to know. Appreciate that. Anything else for landscaping? Gabrielle, garden.
Right. So we added a new family.
Can you come up here?
I'll apologize for my appearance for the 2 people who are watching. We added a new family. I don't have my numbers. I came running from some other commitments. We did add a new family, which was very exciting. We brought down the list again. DePaula and I worked on cleaning up the wait list to remove residents from the apartments who have moved out of the Glen during COVID. I believe our wait list, but we've added about 3 people. So I believe we're right around the 16 people mark. We were given a $5,000 budget to expand. And after a lot of negotiation, we tried to push it through. But we would have had to do the majority of the work, and it just became untenable. There was just not enough money given to us for a small expansion of an additional 6 plots. The fencing, even with a discount, would have come to $3,600. We would have had to kill and remove the grass, trench the ground for irrigation, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't going to get done for $5,000, and I didn't want to hold since we used my credit card to purchase and I get reimbursed. I was a little bit nervous about having things go south and me holding the garden bag. So we decided to defer. We are looking at putting in for some repairs. The fencing needs some repairs and stuff, but that is part of regular maintenance. It's an amenity and it's not part of the expansion budget. Having said that, Keith Heron, I believe I'm pronouncing his last name, has been in touch with me off and on to do a walkthrough and to talk about using some of their money to help expand or to build an entirely possible new garden, maybe at another location. We've been batting back and forth dates. We're both very busy for the month of June. His daughter is getting married, and I have commitments. So we're hoping by the end of the month or the beginning of July, we'll do a walkthrough and discuss that in detail.
Kennedy Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Keith is with he's a developer for the 32-acre project and has done yes, but for the sake of the tape. And he has done community gardens in the past and agrees that those gardens don't fit the Glen, but he does have experience and we've batted back different ideas back and forth. So that's what's going to go forward. Right now, the garden is very active and everyone is gardening for the most part. Carolyn has done a tremendous amount of work on the borders, making them beautiful. So people who walk through see beautiful flowers in bloom. And we're all in a pretty good place. So.
More to Jake. Seems like last year you did a little accounting magic that allowed the social committee to carry over some funding. We pre-invoiced something or did some stuff that allowed us in our accrual accounting methodology.
Basically it
So-
was that if we get the invoice
Right.
before the 30th, that it's like that we can.
So if if she wants to invoice like for fencing, but not do the work,
If we
can carry that down.
Here is though, if we end up going over the $5,000 and we don't have that money, so now we have a half-finished project and I have pitchforks and torches coming through the community at me because we've spent money on a project that's not complete. Go ahead.
We can actually give the money back to the homeowners that we don't use. That's okay. Isn't it?
Well, sure. Then that's what will
That's
happen.
okay, and that will, if we do that 1 year, people might be more cognizant of how much water they're using. They might pay attention to what's happening in the neighborhood.
But the budget might be in a good position this year. Depending on how that 75,000 carries across. And I just hate to
heard
see,
it's going to be gone.
what's that?
I heard Jake.
It might. If some of it, all of it, who knows? But anyway, there's a possibility to do magic within 2 weeks.
I mean, I have the quote, they're ready to go, and he said he could work magic to get the invoice to you, and, you know, the work could be done on its own terms. It's the rest of it.
One other thought to two of our new HAC members and those of you who are here. One thing about the garden that's always bugged me is I think it's unsightly. And so for all new surroundings that are built, if we could establish an architectural standard like we do for townhomes.
So we discussed that. Can I address that before we go on to another point? So if we address an SOP for new gardens, we will still have a mishmash of the old garden.
That's fine.
So it will still look convoluted. And since you have mentioned on 2 or 3 different occasions that you do not like the look of the garden, I have started informally, for sure, polling people as they go to the dog park or they're using the park for other reasons, what they think of the community garden and the look. And their opinions are decidedly different. They love it. They take their kids there, they walk through with their dogs. They love that it's homey and community based. Could it be uniform? Yes. Will it be uniform? Probably not. So,
Just my opinion on the appearance. So
and that's another thing, building the cages, the cost has just gone through the roof for the
I
material.
do agree that it does. It is a hodgepodge and it kind of looks like, I don't know what you call it.
I don't know.
It is what it is.
Organic, yeah.
It's looking better though. The borders are looking better.
Everything's looking better.
Yeah, it is.
People are taking much more pride in their plots.
Yeah, we got rid of the mud board.
Couldn't help yourself, could you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I catch flight, so.
Bye.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
Indiana.
Oh, here, South of India. I was like, oh.
No, actually, Fort Wayne.
Okay, am I done? I want to be so desperately.
So is the plan to spend all of the overage or how much do you think?
Some of the money is there because this year, a lot of the townhouse repairs, which we had put in the budget under handyman, was determined that it should be paid out of the townhouse reserves.
Okay.
So it's like that's kind of where the majority of it comes from. And so there are a few projects that were not completed. And I'm looking at, can we do some of them or all of them or none of them? That's kind of where we are.
Like the picnic table.
Yes, and see, and what I'm looking at is with the picnic table. It's like saying, okay, do we want to use this little overage to do that? You know, and at the same time, I know that Mary Kennedy mentioned taking the 2 benches that are at the park or the playground, saying, you know, do you put one of those out at the dog park? Do you put one of those along the DG path? You know, so the question that I want to talk to you about tomorrow is, you know, is now the time to say, okay, let's put new benches and a picnic table at the playground. So that's kind of all the same vintage, you know, same done at the same time. And so those are things, yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, people pay, that's another discussion.
Okay,
So excuse me, we're kind of playing musical chairs with an HAC today. Tom could be here for the beginning of the meeting. Malia agreed to come for the end of the meeting, so we had a quorum. She's just asking whether she needs to come or can do it by telephone. I'm telling her I prefer her to come, but if she can only do it by telephone, please call me.
or the other thing we could do too, we need to look at one of the property improvement applications. And so that has graphics. And so conceivably we can do it on the phone. I mean, but
Did you email it?
no, I just got it at 5 o'clock today. It's for a solar installation on a single family.
Okay, so when my phone rings, it could be Malia calling to join the meeting, so we continue to have a forum. So the Finance Budget Committee report. First of all, I want to thank the UCAM office for doing what I asked them to do in terms of enhancing the letter that everyone will receive, notifying you officially of your CAM fees for this coming year, and including a budget comparison spreadsheet and a handy set of pie charts that tell you on a monthly basis where your CAM fee dollars are actually going. So what I had proposed to do tonight was follow up on what I did last month in terms of talking about how budget dollars were allocated across the varying expense categories by looking now at the actual dollars for last year's CAM fees and this coming year's CAM fees and how they get allocated. So I guess what we did just, in the end, all we did was next year's CAM fees starting July 1. So the CAM fee for townhome owners, I'm looking for my total and it's not on that sheet.
It's there.
Oh, it is. I'm just reading my totals wrong. Never mind. I'm just reading wrong. Okay. So the monthly CAM fee for townhome owners is $387.81 beginning on July 1. And of that money, the largest share continues to go to reserves, and $98.10 per month is going to the reserve funds. The next largest share is utilities, and that includes water and trash and all those kinds of things. And that's $86.92. The next largest share is repair and maintenance. Now, when you think about repair and maintenance, things are generally handled out of reserves, and part of them are, and Jake just talked about the fact that more of what we do for townhomes has been shifted to be done in and out of the reserve fund and not in the operating budget. But we have a ton of things that get left in that category that are unique to townhomes. So looking at those items, there are things we do in common that we pay for together, and they're operating expenses. So there are things like the repair and maintenance of the townhome sconces, our outdoor lights, roof and gutter cleaning that has to happen on a regular basis, especially with all the leaf drop that we have in the Glen. Not the big stuff with gates and fences, because we moved that to reserve funds this year. But for the small stuff, you know, a latch needs to be fixed. The little stuff is still in operating. So there's small stuff, gates and fences. The biggest number out there is actually the insurance that we pay in common as townhome owners. and not individually as the single-family owners do. Single-family owners are responsible for their own insurance. We do our insurance in common. So we have both property and earthquake insurance because they're both required by the ground sublease that we do through our monthly CAM fees. And so those are things that make up that number. And the reason that number is big.
How much is the insurance?
Insurance for the month is in the range. Let's see if you can pull it off that number. I should have a line item. Insurance. Insurance property is,
I don't
No,
know.
this year, insurance for property,
With earthquake and property insurance for townhomes, it's $54 a month.
yeah,
Did you say with us?
That's for the townhome specifically. Property insurance is $17.03 and earthquake insurance is $37.
and you find the answers to that questions when you get your, hold this up to a camera, when you get your letter, you're going to get a spreadsheet, and those numbers are on the spreadsheet to answer that question. And I'm talking about the information that's on the back of the letter in terms of talking about what we actually pay per month for the varying categories of expenses. The next largest expenditure is, I believe, well, I guess it's actually reserves it. And am I reading my things right?
Well, we're getting it all in the mail, right?
Right.
Yes,
So
you're
you can all
getting it
see
in.
You don't have to, you know.
Delineate it, yeah.
It should be here.
So if we think it's
Take a look at-
clear, if you have questions, let's ask. But the one point I wanted to make out of this pie chart is that we're beginning life with a new contractor for landscaping. And I would like people to know that our individual monthly cost for landscaping is less than a person living in Camarillo would spend to hire someone to come and mow their grass. And our expectations for individual service may actually be somewhat unrealistic given what we actually pay per household for that service. And I know we would all assume that there's some economies of scale and other things that come to bear. But in part, we need to look at knowing that we're not paying for somebody to be there every time a leaf drops and it needs to be swept away. And that we might occasionally need to sweep our own steps and our own driveway and do some minimal outdoor work ourselves in terms of helping to keep our individual piece of the Glen looking nicely.
The townhomes and single families pay the same for landscape, correct?
Right.
Okay.
$56.76 a month.
Yep. So it's I think it's just something, food for thought to think about in terms of, you know, having reasonable expectations. And if we want a higher level of service, then we need to pay for a higher level of service, which we have not. I don't think we have a consensus on the part of the neighborhood that that's something they would like to see the site authority do. So I guess enough said. The budget process, once the budget is completed and approved, kind of starts all over again relatively quickly. So people who see things that need to be grappled with that aren't being grappled with, people who want to see a project done, like an additional picnic table for the park. Those are the kinds of proposals for expenditures that people should bring forward now. So they're in the hopper as we start looking at budget for next
That
year.
proposal for the picnic table has been on the table for 10 years.
Right. So I've had several requests for an additional green trash can at the, near the garden for green waste. Do I put that in writing to the bag? Or to
Well,
No, put it in writing to the UCAM office, which
Well-
is where the budget was covered.
we've gone through the green waste discussion before.
Oh, I would.
Yeah, because there was a point where we put a 3-yard dumpster, a green waste 3-yard dumpster out in that area. And it was determined it wasn't used. And so, and that was for the community, saying you have green waste, do it there. So, and I would anticipate in working with Gothic that what we worked out with our present vendor was, if you have green waste, let us know, and we'll provide burlap blankets and we'll pick it up. So, it's like, that's what we do now. If somebody has green waste around their house, they just email me, call me, and I text.
The garden can have a rotating burlap bag.
I think so. I think you
I
could.
think we put it behind there.
Right,
I
and
think-
you tie it up and leave it for the.
Sure.
Well, and we make great use of this because we have tremendous amount of leaf drop in our yard.
I think that's something.
Well,
I don't know, however you want to do it. I mean, we can talk about it and say, every other week, do you do it on Monday and then it's picked up on Wednesday, or put it on there on Friday, pick it up Monday?
Maybe even only.
Well, it's sort of an ongoing process, and what's happening now is I'm kind of working on the border, and every day I take a plastic bag, I go in a whole plastic bag, throw it in my trash can, I go in another plastic bag in a couple of days, and it should be composted, but
Yeah.
I don't have a way to do it.
Well, I think it sounded what would work is to have a burlap, maybe give you several burlap bags or leave them on your
And I can just
step.
check it off and say, we have a pickup.
Well, why can't we just put it behind the garden and then continue to pile the stuff, and then when it gets big, we tie it up and throw it out there or something.
Right.
Or just take a picture and send it to me.
Yeah.
And then I just have them come.
I think it's a great idea.
Especially seasonally when people,
Have a lot.
have a lot as they're picking up.
That sounds good.
So we actually have a new challenge that we have not effectively addressed. Jake and I kind of disagree about how we ought to address this one, so I'm here to raise kind of a more generic question and get a conversation started. There is a new state law requiring us to segregate our trash, and anything in our trash that is compostable needs to be segregated out.
Do we need a compost bin or compost?
So it would be a tremendous increase in our trash costs to add a third bin. It would be a nightmare to figure out where to store the third bins, because nobody has space for a third bin in the way the Glen has been designed. So the issue is, what are our alternatives? And what can we negotiate for how we do this? And one of the choices might be to either go self-serve and figure out a place to compost in the neighborhood.
I know.
That's rats.
So there are self-contained composting equipment. It does eliminate the rat issue, but yes, so you can tell that meeting our requirements for this state law is going to be difficult. And figuring out a way to do it, because if we don't do it, and we continue to do what we're all doing right now, and what I did yesterday, which is put watermelon rind in my trash,
What's going to happen?
our trash costs are going to go up significantly because our trash collector is going to get fined for having unsegregated trash. Or we have to walk our trash where I think the compliance would be next to nil. You have to walk your compostable trash to a separate bin that gets collected once a week. Separate. Okay, so this is.
Either way, the price is going to go up if we comply or if we don't comply. We can put the watermelon rinds right in Rosemary.
Well, you see, there's.
I think that would work, because you can't see it, and then it's gone, and you have fertilizer.
Well, right, so my point about potentially making the investment in a composting station inside the neighborhood, that we then have good, nice garden soil that could be shared with folks.
For taking their coffee grinds and stuff there, and the rest of the people just roll on it.
It doesn't work. We've tried it at the garden, even with garden people, even with that barrel.
Right.
It doesn't work. People don't understand it. And I don't know how Sacramento is going to make that happen.
Well, the way they're enforcing it in town is that what they've done is they've given people, they're small cans, they're not giant, so that every week that's what they're doing is they're putting your compostable materials in that. It goes out to the curb and it gets emptied every single week. They're not giant cans. I mean, it's something that.
Well, right, but those smaller cans are typically being put in green waste bins, and we don't have a green waste bin.
And as soon as we have some dumpster on the street, people will start throwing the toilets and sinks and anything else they have their lounge work in there. As soon as they get rid of it.
So we are clearly between a rock and a hard place, and we need a creative solution. And I just put this out there because at this point in time, we need to think about what as a community we are willing to do to try to solve this problem and keep the cost of our trash collection increasing at the most moderate increase we can facilitate.
I would like to say that, yes, we're continuing the conversation with EJ Harrison, going, come on, just don't say that we're going to be fined because you can't figure out a way to help us get this in compliance. I mean, it's like, come on, guys, you're the guys who are the experts at this. We shouldn't be talking about this at the HAC meeting about how we're going to compost for you. It's like, come on, tell us what you want us to do. And to put two bins, 64-gallon bins in an enclosure around near the street at the garden for the whole community of the single families and townhomes really doesn't cut it. You may say it's compliant, but it's like that is, the first shot over the bow. What do we do next kind of thing?
The other part of that, Jane, and I composted for many, many years. For the average household, unless they have a dedicated compost tub in their home, they're going to be taking plastic bags with dripping nasty stuff down the street, and they'll be dumping the plastic bag and the whole thing in the compost bin when you can't have plastic in compost. You just can't.
That's a good point.
So to have these centrally located cans is not really feasible. What has to happen is it has to be something that each household has that's manageable. And that's why they've done the small bins in town, because compost gets extremely heavy over the course of a week. So
So my son-in-law and daughter in New Mexico have a countertop bin.
right.
But outdoors, they have enclosed rotatable bins.
Sure.
Where they grow their own compost, and produce what soil they have that's not sand in New Mexico. And that's potentially a solution, but I think we're best. This is a justification for me to go to a competitive bid. We have a competing vendor for trash now in Ventura County, other than Harrison. They currently have the contracts in Santa Paula and Thousand Oaks. I think that means they're doing a kind of more rural, smaller community and a great big community in the county. And I think one of the things you have to consider from a budgetary point of view is going to a competitive bid on trash.
Well, why wouldn't we be doing that anyway?
We would do that anyway.
And for me, the recycle bin that we do have is very large. I don't fill that thing up.
I do.
You do?
My neighbors and I share all of our garbage. The two households are able to use just the two bins.
Well, and Carolyn, you can actually ask for the smaller bins if you don't.
Yeah, but if we had, the blue was a little smaller, then we could have the room for the compost. But we also have a, a limited area where we can store those bins and the.
But where I live, we will end up with Fly Central because those things have to go right back by our back tires. I mean, we don't have a separate enclosure for them like some of the homes do. And, that's one of the reasons why we share the bin, because they're out close to the alley. As soon as we overflow into our bins, we get stuff because it's right next to our house, smells, flies, all that.
And the raccoons think it's lunchtime.
Right, and when they know it's like.
Oh, can't forget the raccoon.
I'm having a terrible problem.
But
Okay,
they're at your house.
Well, I just wanted to surface the issue, get people of goodwill's creative thoughts about how we go forward.
community advisory group.
Malia, let me just ask Malia to call in how we do that.
If you trap a raccoon and relocate it, you kill the babies, because the babies are waiting for the mother to come back. They won't get fed, they'll start to them. That's even better. And there's got to be a more humane way.
I'm going to text daughter in Santa Monica to see how Santa Monica's handling.
Good deal.
Santa Monica gives out the small kitchen top ones and they go in the leaf, the green waste bin.
Which we don't have.
Which we don't have.
Okay, community advisory group.
Could we have one green waste per, or 2 green waste per block or something like that? Right, that way you only have one area.
Bring it store.
Well, some people have a little more room than others. Some people have dedicated trash enclosures out in the alleys where we could stick one there. Like, well, I don't have a dedicated trash enclosure, either just my neighbors, but the people on the ends do, and the people in the middle do. So there are places to put one.
So it's okay for people to go into your trash enclosure?
Well, it's not really even on the property, it's not really even property. We do it all the time, because we take our neighbors. And code is very good at that. We take each other's trash out outside, so, but it's really just right there in the alley.
And
Good questions.
Landing Cove is the most cooperative street in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay, I've just asked Malia to call me for the CAG report.
Okay.
And if she doesn't call, I'll call her.
Okay, is there any new HAC additional discussion, new items?
So I just did it.
And we all do that.
I actually don't know why we haven't had the green waste container. I've always wondered that, because when I lived in Thousand Oaks, we had trash, we had recycle, and we had green.
Yeah, pretty nice. Because right now I'm re-landscaping my yard and I've been having to throw my.
You're gonna throw it in the regular trash can.
That's the only place I have to do it.
Don't throw it in the regular trash. Call and ask for a burlap and it'll get done with.
They'll pick it up.
Well, now we know that. I never knew that.
I do it every fall.
Because I'm palm tree.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we done?
Leah's number on your phone really handy.
sure.
I think it's Aaron Price.
She's calling via Zoom. She said she's calling via Zoom,
Okay, that's fine.
so
Does she have a corporate Zoom? She can just do that.
Oh.
Where all phones are Zoom.
Is she there?
She should be.
It's Simon. Okay. That what we need is. Call.
What do you guys figure this out? If we bring back a meeting code block party, do we need to put in for a permit? Pay for that permit?
Say that.
Would we bring back a landing code block party? Do we have to put in for a permit?
There's an application
Okay.
and it kind of depends on what you're doing.
We're usually shut down the street, but everything else.
Right, that's one, yeah. Are you doing a bounce house? Are you doing a bounce house?
Not really. No.
That's kind of what you want.
Okay, no.
This is weird.
okay, I just asked her to just call me and I'll put it next to a mic. I probably don't want to do that until after it's finished.
Do you have a number? I'll just call her.
I do.
Hello, Malia, it's Jake. Can I put you on speaker? Okay, there you go.
Okay, CAG,
Okay, great. So
CAG
I'm
report.
providing the
CAG report.
I'm providing the CAG report. So I met with the CAG last week, or a couple weeks ago actually, on Friday on the 27th, I believe. Sorry, no, Thursday the 26th. And refers to the renderings of the new portion of the community. I think this has already happened, but the renderings of the new community were supposed to be put up as banners covering the construction gates within the next month. I believe that's already happened. The renderings for phase 2 are available at universityglenphase2.com. There's also a web link that I can provide if somebody would like to see it. The name of phase 2 is going to be Anacapa Canyon, and it will be added to the University Glen signage. So right now where you see kind of when you turn left from Camarillo Street onto Channel Islands, there's the signage that indicates University Glen, as well as Mission Hills, or I forget, Mission Oaks, or whatever the name of the apartments are. Anacapa Canyon will also be added to that. There will be 2 different versions of apartments at this new development. One will be vintage at Anacapa Canyon. That's for the age and income restricted apartment. And Anacapa apartments will just be the market value apartments. The pricing for the apartments as well as the homes has not yet been determined, but we'll try to continue to chase that down until we get additional information. Regarding the amenities, the pool, rec room, fitness center will be in the center of phase 2. We are still waiting for an actual copy of the map that was shared at the CAG. I don't know if John is still there at the meeting, and I don't recall the name of the person that agreed to provide that to us, but I have yet to see it. There will be a playground, I would say, on the southwest area of the new development. It's planned for being I would say like closest to the older phase. Kind of if you think about where the dog park is, the new playground for that development will be closest to that area. The amenities, we did find out that the amenities of phase 2 are being paid in full by the developer. However, phase 1 residents, those being all of us that are existing homeowners, as well as apartment dwellers, will have the benefits of phase 2 amenities without any contribution to capital cost. The camp fees for all amenities in phase 1 and 2.
Capital cost or maintenance cost?
capital cost. So the cost of building it. Eventually all of it, the CAM fees, that's kind of what I was getting to next, is the CAM fees for all amenities, including phases 1 and 2, will be split equally between all residents, just as it is now, except for obviously it'll be divided among more doors than it currently is. It's not yet clear how or if this will affect the current price of our CAM fee. It's undetermined also whether or not a dog park will be planned for phase 2. We did ask about the developer about providing enhancements to the existing dog park, including expansion, considering the fact that the pet population will likely double, and they have to get back to us on this. We also requested a map, which I referred to at the beginning of my report, which was presented at the CAG so that we can share it at the HAC, but unfortunately we have yet to receive that. It clearly defines where the amenities will be located within phase 2. One thing that we're also waiting for clarification on is it's our understanding that Keller Williams is currently in talks for bringing a new convenience type store to the previous town center market location. But at this point, we don't have any specific details about where they are in terms of their negotiations for that new vendor. So that is all that I have. I know that there's questions when I share this information initially with the HAC about getting assistance for the community garden. We're still waiting to hear back as to whether or not the developer has any intention of providing assistance to increase the size and or maintenance of the community garden as it exists now in the phase 1 location. And that is the completion of my CAG report.
Okay, well, the second question, first of all, I don't understand why the garden discussion wasn't counted for people on the garden committee. But the second question is, it's my understanding that the senior apartments will have their own amenities and that we will not be allowed to use those amenities. Is that correct?
When I was on the CAG meeting back at the end of May, I heard no such thing about seniors having separate amenities.
Okay.
And I can also tell you that according to the renderings that were provided during that meeting, that there did not appear to be any separate amenities for the seniors when we looked at the map and the visual of the amenities that were going to be provided in phase 2.
There's not a second pool?
I think we need to look at the map.
Okay.
So yes, there is a separate pool. There will also be another jacuzzi, as well as a kiddie pool. The gym there is substantially larger than the gym that we had here in phase 1, and as well as the rec room. It's my understanding that the developer is spending to the tune of $5 million for the rec room that they are putting into phase 2, which obviously is substantially more than what they spent on the phase 1 rec room. And again, that has nothing, that will not come out of our budget, as the developer is taking on the capital cost with no contribution from phase 1 homeowners.
Thank you.
Okay, so please remember, we bought the infrastructure underneath that land that they just tore up.
Right, exactly.
Or at least we're continuing to buy it.
Turn it off right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if you'll hang out with us, does anyone have agenda items for next week's CAG meeting that they'd like to communicate to Malia?
I think Malia did.
I apologize. I cut out for just a moment there. So if I missed a question, I apologize. I'm back now.
Can I email the question?
Sure.
About the senior living stuff. Okay.
The one thing was that Tina Itkonen in the public comments asked about the moving forward with determining what it would cost to have individual water meters per door. And was wanting to take it to the bag, and I think the CAG, it should be, I think everybody should talk about that.
So that would be important while they're developing right?
Very expensive, and it's also underground service, so we don't pay for water. So.
We do pay for it.
No, right, I mean individually.
Utility.
Right, individually.
So that was the one thing that just kind of keep putting it out there.
Honestly, I don't think a house needs water.
Almost all water, 70%, like 70% of water used in Thousand Calabasas area is all outdoor water. So you show landscape, things like that. So where are they using the things that we have to do?
Yeah, I don't think it would. We would still have to pay for the landscaping water. That's reclaimed, right?
That's reclaimed, yeah.
It's the washing of the cars, things like that. They will help as well.
Well, on a toilet, it doesn't.
Turns off in your.
And, yeah, okay,
Are we done?
okay.
Maria, please stay on because as we finish up the meeting, we do have a property improvement request we need to deal with. So if you can just hang out there for a minute. Any other issues anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn? Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Will I take my Tesla and the hot Tesla?
No, don't put it in.
Oh, I'll make that look.
Are we?
Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
I don't like to.